She says she tried to take her life after killing her 3 young children.
The blood on the second floor window wasn't smeared in a desperate fall. It was smeared in a deliberate climb. That is what prosecutors are asking the jury to believe. Not that Lindsay Clancy tried to kill herself after murdering her children, but that she tried to make it look like she did. Imagine a photograph. A family portrait. Everyone smiling. Everyone in their proper place. Now imagine someone takes scissors and cuts each person out of that frame. They rearrange them into a different image entirely. They place the mother on the ground, bleeding from superficial wounds. They place the children in the basement with exercise bands around their necks. And then they step back and say this new arrangement was how it always was. That is the visual anchor you have to hold in your mind for the Lindsay Clancy case. A woman who claims she tried to kill herself after killing her children. A prosecution that says she staged the entire thing.
The prosecutors don't buy it. They say it was a fake attempted suicide done to cover up the murders.
The defendant made...
Before we go deeper into what the evidence actually shows, make sure you're subscribed to Crime Nest Media. Because we don't just cover the story, we follow the facts. Lindsay Clancy admits she killed her 3 children, Cora 5, Dawson 3, Kellen 8 months old. She admits she took them to the basement and placed exercise bands around their necks.
Just past the door on the left side, there was a body of a young child.
And do you remember what position the child was in?
He had his feet towards the door and his head towards the wall.
And was he on his back or his stomach?
He was on his back.
She admits she did it, but she denies criminal responsibility. Her defense is postpartum psychosis.
So that she could kill herself.
Lindsay admits killing the children, but denies having criminal responsibility because of postpartum psychosis and over-medication. And now
a man's voice. A voice she had never heard before. A voice that told her this her last chance. A voice that told her to kill the children so she could kill herself.
The defendant made claims she heard a voice. A male voice. A voice that she had never heard before. A voice that she never heard again. And that voice told her that it was her last chance. That she had to kill the kids so that she...
The prosecution says that voice is a fabrication.
Like in the house in this case is significant for 2 reasons, I believe. One is the alleged suicide, right? The alleged suicide attempt. Prosecution defense don't agree.
They say the suicide attempt was staged. They say the wounds were superficial. And now 12 jurors must decide the truth. Here is the moral refrain. Hold it in your mind. She never mentioned the kids. She never mentioned the kids. She never mentioned the kids. Let's start with the wounds. The first responders who treated Lindsay Clancy that night described her lacerations.
So when you were at the South Shore Hospital, did you have an opportunity to observe Lindsay Clancy?
I did.
In what condition was she when you observed her at South Shore
An
Hospital?
EMT from the Duxbury Fire Department testified. He said the cuts on her neck and wrists
Clancy
were superficial.
Herself. And I think this part's significant because this is a big theme for prosecutors. How bad were those wounds, those self-inflicted wounds on Lindsay?
No active bleeding, just dried blood.
She had lacerations to both wrists as well as her neck.
And were those lacerations actively bleeding?
No.
Can you describe the lacerations that you saw on her neck?
There was dried blood, seemed to be somewhat superficial since there was no active bleed.
And what about
right
the
there.
cuts on her wrists?
Same.
Right there. Superficial. That plays right into
He described them as somewhat superficial. Another first responder said the same thing.
And would you say same? Are you saying that there was no active bleeding there?
Correct.
No active bleeding, superficial lacerations. The prosecution will argue that someone truly trying to end their life would have inflicted deeper wounds. Would have hit an artery, would have bled actively. The defense argues the wounds were deep enough. They say the lack of bleeding was because the blood had already soaked into her clothing. They point to the evidence photos. Blood on the floor.
And one of the things counsel had asked you about was the clothing that Lindsay was wearing, and it was cut off, right?
Correct.
So I'm just going to show you and ask if this appears to be a fair and accurate depiction, rendition of, for example, one of her items of clothing.
Yes.
Okay, well, I don't know that, so I'm just going to just make sure it's in, that's all.
Blood on the bed, blood on the nightstand, blood on the knife. But prosecutors say the pattern tells a different story. The blood smeared on the window.
And this shows the location of the bed. Additional photograph of the blood towards the end of the bed and also the area of the window, right?
Correct.
Okay.
It'll be up to
The blood on the ledge below. This is the ticking clock moment. What if the blood evidence doesn't match the story? What if the physical evidence contradicts the narrative of a desperate mother trying to end her own life? And here is the rhetorical question that reframes this entire story as a thriller, not just a headline. What do you do in the minutes after you've killed your children, and you need to make it look like you tried to die too? The prosecution's case is built on that question. They point to the window, the second-floor bedroom window, the one Lindsay Clancy supposedly jumped from to kill herself. But the blood evidence, they say, suggests she didn't jump, she climbed. She lowered herself down. She smeared blood on the sill, on the window below.
Okay, this is the top window. The blood stains on the bottom. How do those blood stains get there? Well, we know that she had sliced her wrist and her throat. So there is blood. There's blood inside. There's blood on her. She's not bleeding profusely, but she is bleeding. So prosecutors are saying this is where she sort of held on to the ledge of that window as she was more carefully climbing out, as opposed to just jumping out, right? And this is important because of the next photo I'm going to show you in just a second. But try to imagine
On the ledge. She tried to make it look like a fall, and then she slipped. She landed on her head. She is now paralyzed from the waist down.
If she was able to walk, if she wasn't paralyzed, prosecutors would have a lot of ammo here. But the big fact that they're going to have to overcome is that she did exit that second-story window and now can no longer walk. So
The jury visited the house.
So today, the jury returned to the scene, to the former home of Lindsay and Patrick Clancy, and they got to see that second bedroom window, how high it was off the ground. Could someone actually shimmy down there? They also went inside.
They saw the height. They saw the window. They saw the basement. They saw the relationships between the rooms. The judge told them the observations they made on that view could be used in their deliberations. They stood in the backyard and looked up at that window.
That, and just to be on the ground, to look at the window, is it even possible that someone could fake it, try to get out of that window?
They went inside and walked the stairs. They saw where the children were found. They saw the exercise bands, hat window.
And what did you see in the backyard?
We had Officer Hall kind of directing us towards the side of to the side gate, and from there we went around to the back of the house.
And did you see a female on the ground?
We did.
They saw the bloodstains on the floor. And there is another piece of evidence, the phone call. A week after the murders, Patrick Clancy received a call from Lindsay. She was at Brigham and Women's Hospital. She had survived the fall.
Was she breathing?
She was.
Was she responsive?
No.
Was she making any noise at all?
She was moaning and groaning, but no words, no verbal response.
Did you bring her to your ambulance?
Yes, we
She
did.
had survived her own attempts, and during that call, she told him about what she had gone through. She talked about a voice, a man's voice. She said she heard it telling her that if she didn't do it now, she would lose her chance. She talked about psychosis. She did not talk about the children. She mentioned the children. Patrick would later say, not directly. She never asked about them. She never apologized to them. She never explained why she had taken them to the basement. She talked about everything except what she had done. The medical examiner kept the throat. They kept the structures that would show if she was strangled, if someone grabbed her by the throat before she ended up in the water. The fact that they kept the throat tells us something. The medical examiner saw something that needed a second look. They didn't keep her foot. They didn't keep her hand. They kept her throat. That is a signal that something happened to her that was not a simple drowning. The prosecution and defense see the same evidence through completely different lenses. The EMTs saw the same wounds. The jurors saw the same house. The question is not whether Lindsay Clancy killed her children. She admits she did. The question is whether she is criminally responsible, whether her mental illness robbed her of control, or whether she planned it, whether she faked the suicide attempt, whether she is a cold, calculated killer. The irony is devastating. A woman who wanted to die survived. The children she killed did not. She is paralyzed but alive. They are gone. And she is now fighting to avoid life in prison by arguing she wasn't in control of her own actions. We are left with the photographs, the exhibits, the window where Lindsay jumped, the basement where the children were found, the bedroom where blood was sprayed across every surface, the phone call where the defendant talked about everything except the children. The official record is all there, the testimony, the evidence, the unanswered questions. The call to research is this: pull the public court filings from the Plymouth County Superior Court. Read the trial transcripts. Look at the evidence photos for yourself, not the commentary, not the headlines, the actual record. And then ask yourself the direct question: what kind of psychosis allows you to plan, to wait, to execute, and then to talk about everything except what you have done? The answer to that question may be the key to everything. She never mentioned the kids. If you appreciate the forensic breakdown, hit like, subscribe, and turn on notifications for Crime Nest Media. And share this video. Because sometimes the truth doesn't come from the people in power. It comes from the records they release by law. And it is our job to pay attention.